Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be talking about the biggest dilemma in Islam. The biggest dilemma in Islam, I believe, is whether the verses in Quran are actually in order. I'm not talking about the order of the chapters in Quran. We all know the chapters in Quran are not in order because the revelation order is very different. A while back I talked about how many verses there are in Quran because Muslim scholars have very different opinions regarding this. For example, Ibn Abbas says there are 6,616 verses, and others Sahabas said 6,217, 6,214, and scholars of Egypt says there are 6,226 verses, and the list keep going. And this is islamka.org. I believe this one is from England. And there's a question here regarding the verses in Quran. The questioner asked how many verses there are in Quran. He got confused. Now, go back to the revelation order. Let me show you this. The revelation order of the chapter is very different. For example, chapter 9, Surah At-Tawbah, is actually chapter 113. Now, this is the confusing part for some of you maybe. You see this note, except last two verses from Mecca. Quran, for you who don't know, Quran is divided by two sections. The first section is Makkah or Meccan. The second one is Medina, because it is revealed while Muhammad was in Medina. Because Prophet Muhammad spread Islam the first 12 years in Mecca. So all verses that came down during that time is called Meccan verses, while the rest will be called Medinan verses. Now, I hope you understand until this part. Surah At-Tawbah is revealed as the second last chapter revealed in Quran, the second last. It is revealed in Medina, according to Muslim scholars, except the last two verses from Makkah. Do you see the problem? Before I tell you what the problem is, let me take you to this another Islamka. This one is, I believe, Saudi-based Islamka. This one is islamka.info. According to Islamka, the fact there is scholarly consensus and many texts stating the order of verses in one surah that is very well known. The consensus was reported by many scholars, including Al-Zarkashi in Al-Burhan and Abu Ja'far, who said the order of the verses in their surahs came about because this is how it was instituted by the Prophet. And there is no dispute among Muslims with regard to this matter. According to them, the verses in Quran are in order. But I beg to differ. Why? First, we will take a look on the two names they gave us, Al-Zarkazi and Abu Ja'far. We will start with Abu Ja'far. Don't be mistaken, this one is Abu Ja'far Muslim. This one is not Abu Ja'far who was called Al-Mansur. That one is different, Abu Ja'far. So this one is descendant of Hussein ibn Ali. He lived in the early 10th century. And just a reminder, Prophet Muhammad died in year 632, early 7th century. Another one, Al-Zarqashi, let us take a look. He was born in year 1344, 712 years after the death of Muhammad. He was born 712 years after the death of Prophet Muhammad. And yet, his opinion is followed by Muslims these days. When we go back to Islamka, you see how they wording it. Consensus was reported by many scholars, including Al-Zarqashi and Abu Jafar. So when they say it like this, it means these two are the best of the scholars, at least regarding this matter. But I do believe this is all made up. I mean, those two people, they don't know which verse came down first. This is Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith number 4986, regarding Surah At-Tawbah. See what it says. This is Zaid talking here. Zaid ibn Thabit. Okay, start from here actually. So I started looking for the Quran and collecting it from what was written on palm stalks, thin white stones, and also from the man who knew it by heart, till I found the last verse of Surah At-Tawbah with Abi Kuzaimah al-Ansari. And I did not find it with anybody other than him. So Abi Kuzaimah al-Ansari was the only person who memorized these two verses, which is the last two verses from Surah At-Tawbah. When we go to the reference in order again, Surah At-Tawbah, the last two verses is from Mecca. So maybe, according to Abi Kuzaima, he was given these verses from Mecca. Now, how did they know that this is the last two verses from Surah At-Tawbah? I'm not questioning the name of At-Tawbah, how they get it, because why would Angel Jibril? We have to pretend we believe in Islam, right? When we talk about this, we take if we take all the stories as true stories, then the question will be, how come the two last verses came down first? And did they know those two last verses is verse 128 and verse 129? Did Muhammad know beforehand that there are 127 verses more to come down in the same surah? You got my question? It is very strange. I find this very strange. The two last verses came down many years, many years. So remember, Muhammad was in Medina for 10 years. The last 10 years of his prophethood was in Medina. So Surah Tawbah was the second last surah to be revealed. This is all very confusing, but let me take you to Surah At-Tawbah, verse 128 and 129. Surely that has come to you from your midst, a messenger who feels it very hard on him if you face a hardship, who is very anxious for your welfare, and for the believers, he is very kind, very merciful to the for the believers. Don't get it wrong. So if they turn away, enough for me is Allah. There is no God but He. In Him I have placed my trust, and He is the Lord of the great throne. So how did they know this one is the last two verses from Surah At-Tawbah? In my opinion, they did not. Zaid ibn Thabit just put it there because he thinks this is related to repentance. Therefore, At-Tawbah. At-Tawbah means repentance. Right? So to him, or for him, this sounds like repentance. So that's why he put it in Surah At-Tawbah. That's why. So yes, the order of the verses in Quran are based on the knowledge or the little knowledge that Zaid ibn Thabit had. Everything was based on his own opinion, nothing else. Let me show you this hadith. Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith number 4536, narrated by Ibn Az-Zubair. I said to Uthman, this verse, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, those of you who die and leave widows behind, yada yada yada, without turning them out, has been abrogated by another verse. Why then do you write it in Quran? Uthman said, leave it, O the son of my brother, for I will not shift anything of it from its original position. Az-Zubayr asked Uthman why Uthman still wrote down the verse that was abrogated. Uthman said, I will not shift anything. I will not change anything from its original position. So he will still write it. But the problem is, what was abrogated? Before we go to the verses, I will show you another Muslim website, just so you know this is not my opinion alone. As you can see, abrogation of chapter 2, verse 240 by verse Al-Baqarah, verse 234. Sorry. So, do you find this strange? Verse number 240 is abrogated by verse number 234. Can you believe the previous verse abrogates the later verse? Have you ever seen anything like this in your life? This is very strange. So, verse 240 abrogated by verse 334. Let us read. Verse Al-Baqarah, verse 240. Those among you who pass away and leave wives behind are to make a will in favor of their wives, to be maintained for 1 year without being expelled from husband's home. This is a religion of peace and mercy. Then if they move out, there is no sin on you in what they have done for themselves according to the fair practice. Allah is mighty, wise. So, if you die in jihad, you have to make a will so your wife or your wives can stay in the house for 1 year without being expelled. Imagine, this is how Islam is. If you're a jihadist, when you die, they kick out your family from their house, from your house, and then take over the house for themselves. I'm not going to talk about it for now, but I want to show you the verse that abrogates this, which is verse 234. Those among you who pass away and leave wives behind, their wives keep themselves waiting for 4 months and 10 days. So when they have reached the end of their waiting period, there is no sin on you in what they do for themselves in recognized manner. Allah is all aware of what you do. Imagine that. So now, 1 year is abrogated by 4 months and 10 days. If somebody saying Islam is a religion for men, well, who can who can blame them? Even the wives of the jihadists are supposed to be kicked out after just 4 months and 10 days. Imagine, so the inheritance law in Surah An-Nisa means nothing. Their wives are not safe. And these wives are Muslims, many. Imagine if they're not Muslims. Now, back to the problem. If they say verse 234 is abrogated by verse 240, I will understand. So, and also it sounds little, not good, but still somewhat slightly better. So 4 months and 10 days abrogated by 1 year. But now this is the other way around. 1 year is abrogated by 4 months and 10 days. And then look at the end is the best. Allah is all aware of what you do. There's no sin in you, right? When they reach the end of their waiting period, there is no sin on you in what they do for themselves. So Allah has removed the guilt in case if you feel guilty for kicking them out. So now, how could this be? Which verse abrogates which verse? Even if we believe in Muslim scholars' opinions, this sounds like scam for me. And how come Allah sent two verses? This is not to mention, Allah sent two verses that sounds alike, apart from the amount of the months. The other one is 12 months, the other one is 4 months and 10 days. But the rest are exactly pretty much the same. Are you sure this is not just a mistake from whoever recited? Are you sure those men who recited Quran were being honest with what they recited? And are you sure we can trust the opinions of scholars who lived 300 years or 700 years after the death of Muhammad? Of course, these questions are all for Muslims if you listen to this. And I know once I upload this video, if Muslim or a Muslim commented on this, it would not be related to the video. But however, I pray and hope there is some common sense in Muslim who listen to this. And I pray that the Muslim, whoever listen to this, will start thinking for themselves, asking questions and investigate, at least. And for you who are Christian, please pray for them. And I don't know if you are aware, what's going on in Manipur is not getting any better. They are still persecuting the Kuki tribe, which is majority is Christian, and so many churches are being burned down. And please pray for them. Now, whether you're a Hindu, a Muslim, or Christian, God bless you all. Have a nice life.